Welcome to Fantastic Vision. Please subscribe us before you watch today's video. Recently, news has been circulating in the market claiming that Huawei has obtained permanent authorization for the ARMv9 architecture. Currently, the two parties have not made an official announcement. However, judging from the market's reaction and Yu Qingdong's past words, there is a high probability that this news is true. Although ARM has technological autonomy, it is quite chaotic internally. It is obviously a British company, but the rights belong to SoftBank's Masayoshi Son. This is also the case when Nvidia tried to acquire ARM, although it was ultimately rejected. However, Masayoshi Son is still trying to push forward his plan to go public in the United States, which has also led to confusion as to whether he can continue to authorize Huawei. ARM has always maintained its independent rights and interests through various channels. It has repeatedly stated in public that the use of Huawei technology is limited, but the same is true for the latest ARMv9 structure, which can be authorized to any company for use without being affected by chip regulations. Naturally, this includes Chinese companies. ARM has long launched the v9 architecture, but there has been a lot of fuss over Nvidia's acquisition. Although the acquisition failed because it failed to pass the antitrust investigation, ARM does not want to be further restricted at such a sensitive moment. Therefore, Huawei is not authorized to use a new architecture. In fact, the reason is very simple. Under the constraints of chip regulations, Huawei encountered TSMC's supply cutoff, and high-end chips were temporarily unable to be manufactured. At that time, ARM's authorized v9 architecture did not play a corresponding role for Huawei. Enterprises, the person in charge, was also very smart and in a wait-and-see state. Huawei has received a permanent license, and Huawei often receives permanent licenses for the ARMv9 structure. There is no formal conclusion on this matter yet, but it is very likely. US Semiconductor has changed relevant regulations several times and imposed strict controls on many semiconductor companies. Except for ARM, others are not allowed. ARM is a British company that has adopted some advanced technologies from the United States, including the ARMv9 chip. ARM has also announced that it complies with US regulations on Chinese technology. In other words, it accounts for only 10% of US technology. A very small part. This is also the reason why Nvidia kept trying to buy ARM, but in the end it failed to pass the US antitrust investigation. As we all know, ARM has released the v9 system a long time ago, but it has never been open to Huawei. Now, Huawei has obtained a permanent license for the ARMv9 structure. First of all, Huawei's development in the semiconductor industry has far exceeded their expectations. In addition to Kirin 9000, they are also constantly developing new products. For example, Huawei has its own DaVinci framework, its own Taishan framework, its own operating system, its own programming, and its own programming. Among them, the architecture and instruction system are the most difficult, so mobile phone manufacturers around the world basically use the ARM architecture, and the reason why Nvidia wants to acquire ARM is because of this. The A series and M series they developed themselves are also based on ARM designs. Qualcomm also adopted the ARM architecture process. Samsung once studied the chip structure, but ultimately chose to abandon it and chose ARM. Huawei is completely the opposite. They have made great achievements based on DaVinci, Taishan, etc., and under the Da Vinci framework, they released a Fating system based on Taishan architecture. In other words, as long as ARM does not license its patents to Huawei, Huawei's self-developed framework will inevitably develop further, and it will surely seize ARM's share by then, because Huawei itself has a self-developed chip structure. In addition, due to new chip regulations, many chip companies are unable to ship products at will, which has caused many domestic companies to speed up research and development. While using ARM, they have also begun to use the RSI-CV architecture. According to statistics, 8 of the 10 newly added chip companies in the world are local companies, and most of the senior members of RISC-V are domestically produced. Companies such as Huawei and Alibaba have also successively released products based on RISC-V, and their performance is already at the internationally advanced level. Without permission, Huawei and other domestic companies will speed up research and development of RISC-V, and ARM's position will be threatened by then. In this context, completely handing over the ARM v9 structure to Huawei will not only eliminate a strong competitor, but also reassure other companies. After all, developing based on ARM can be said to be a success. Huawei HiSilicon named Huawei's patent application Vientiane Core, which may mean that Huawei has entered a new stage. Anyway, Kirin is made in China. Even if Huawei updates the structure of V8, it will not be faster than the V9 system. According to public data, for every 10 new chip companies in the world, at least 8 are from the mainland Chinese market. Among the senior members of the RSI-CV architecture, they are basically domestic manufacturers. In view of the performance of this architecture, currently, US giants such as Intel and Qualcomm have also joined in, but the right to speak is still in the hands of Chinese companies. If the ARM architecture does not let up, Huawei will definitely focus all its energy on the RISC-V architecture, and it is very likely that its monopoly will be directly cut off by then, because opening up the authorization to Huawei will kill 2 birds with 1 stone for ARM. Huawei has previously disclosed relevant information. HiSilicon has previously claimed that all things are core-born, which is likely to be a hint of a new situation. Previously, Huawei could only use ARM's V8 architecture, and it already had the disruptive Kirin. The 9000 chip was born. And Yu Chengdong also stated that there will be disruptive products this year. It is obvious that there is a breakthrough in the chip. It is not realistic to use the RISC-V architecture to complete it, so there is a high probability that it has obtained the authorization of the V9 architecture. Regarding this, how do you see it?